Good evening. My name is Art Cribbs. I'm the Executive Director of the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity. I'm also the Administrative Pastor for the Los Angeles Filipino American United Church of Christ. I also am the Ethics Instructor for the California Department of Justice Post Program for Executives, which is Police Officers Standard and Training. I have come to this position in support of Proposition 64 from a place that did not support drug use and did not support the legalization of any drug. And yet, when I do an analysis of the history of prohibition in this country, we know where that led us. It led us to a place of violence in our streets, brokenness in homes, and incarceration of persons because of the use and the distribution of alcohol. 100 years ago, we began to move in a direction that changed the laws, and it took a long time into the 20th century to realize that the prohibition against alcohol did not serve its intended purpose to create an environment that was safer, a community that was healthier. As a pastor of churches throughout the United States and California, I have served affluent white communities and white congregations where drug abuse, alcohol abuse is excessive, but people don't go to jail or prison for the use and abuse of alcohol or narcotics. Let me say that again. I have observed from my experience as a pastor in suburban white communities of affluence, people who abuse alcohol and drugs, and they do not go to jail. Those who are excessive users or abusers go to the hospital. I grew up in Watts in South Los Angeles. I played in Watts, I studied in Compton. I grew up in a community that was destroyed by the importation of drugs, not marijuana, crack cocaine and heroin. I grew up in a community that people called a promised land, and I saw lives destroyed. And so I come to Proposition 64 out of a context of a community that was harmed by the importation of drugs. But as I became an adult and experienced the wider realities and experiences around marijuana or cannabis, I realized that young men and women in my community were going to prison on a suspicion of having possession of marijuana, going to prison on a suspicion of participating in the drug trade. Now, when I compare my upbringing in South Los Angeles with my professional presence in suburban white congregations, I see a clear difference. I also realize that the use of any drug in this society is not measured by the quantity or quality of a product, but the coloration, ethnicity, and nationality of the person who is engaged. It is unfair, it is wrong, it is corrupt. And then finally, I do believe that we should learn from our past and not follow the same mistakes, the same road that led to death, violence, and incarceration 100 years ago, when we can do so much better now. I think Proposition 64 represents a very new way that may not equalize the playing field. I think you will always find ways to put people in prison based on race and color. But I think this is one path that could lead us in a new direction.